So I've spoken to both of these folks at length, and I don't think there's any two people who could better answer the question, where the hell is this job going? That's what we want to know right now. Where is this going? So where the hell is this job going?
You didn't say you were going to ask that
I know, but we
question.
did spontaneous conversation training.
So I think I'll start, and then so I think that a lot of where this job is going has already been discussed today, and that is expansion. And we see a lot of blurring lines in go-to-market, and that's a good thing. As chief marketing officers become chief market officers, we are looking at customer. We are looking at the market itself, those who could be customers, right? So we're obviously seeing chief marketing officers own experience, e-commerce, which means P&L, PLG, their own analytics teams, and so the side to side continues.
I promise a respectful debate here today. Chief Market Officer?
I'm coming around to it.
Oh, okay.
Now
All right,
I'm
I guess I'm
scared.
that guy.
I can't fight Kate in person.
I was just kidding, you can't, because I'm from New York.
Okay. I live in New York.
I'm
and,
not. No, I'm seeing like the best clients I have oftentimes talk very little about marketing in their CMO roles. They talk more about business acumen and working cross-functionally, and those are some of the buzzwords. But the ones that I see be most successful are those that are leveraging their influence in behavioral psychology, and they're understanding the drivers of the CEO and the investors and the board, not simply thinking down of how kick-ass they are at marketing. So one of the things that I caution people of, in flocks of CMOs, you need to think about the perspectives of the sales leaders, of the other people in the team, of the investors especially, and you need to have that CEO be an advocate for you. It doesn't matter how kick-ass at marketing you are, you need all of these other folks to advocate for you, and if you're not scooping all that up, you're going to lose your job in that short tenure that we're looking for.
Can you see why he's like the coach and recruit and negotiator extraordinaire? I mean, his voice, I'm sold. Whatever he just said, I bought it. Because it's the resonance of your voice is just extraordinary.
Can we just add one thing, and I doubt that you're going to disagree with me on this. GM mindset. That is it. And it's already been talked about as well, the idea of one team. The CMO is not doing marketing. The CMO is a leader who owns marketing. And so hiring well and the best of the best under the CMO is what makes the CMO capable of being a chief market officer.
I need to add a little bit to that too.
Okay, go.
So we often get stuck in what the anchor of being a marketer means. And so when you're going in to interview with the CEO, they have a perception of what marketing is. You know it's much more than that. You have to sell that vision. You have to break the perception. I was actually talking to Melissa about this a little earlier, that she's been a GM, held many product lines at Oracle, and she's like, I look like a Jill of all trades. I can do all of this, but she's got a strong marketing background. She has to break the perception of what people think of marketers and show how she can make a cross-functional impact everywhere. And that part is exceptionally difficult when other people lead with marketing-related questions. And everything is marketing. So you have to become a master of steering the conversation towards where you want to have it and making it their idea to hire you for all these other activities as well.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think in the end, yeah, but I think in the end that idea of one team, don't talk like a marketer. Don't use none of these ideas are new. They've been discussed all day today. Don't talk like a marketer because nobody cares. You know, you're part of the leadership team. You're here to talk about the business. You have a part to play, but ultimately the numbers and the information and the goals and the customer, it's all the same.
I'm hearing this loud and clear. I'm going to just summarize. It is, you're a business leader who happens to do marketing.
Right.
We're in agreement on that?
Thank you. Well done.
You're a business leader. Okay.
But don't change your title to Chief Market Officer.
Yeah, and I disagree with the change of the title for a very significant reason, because if the role doesn't change and you change the title, you're just putting a coat of paint on an old barn.
That's exactly right.
So if you're really gonna be it, and I don't know if somebody else on a board would actually know the difference between chief market and chief marketing. They actually know what marketing is in theory. Do they know what market is? And what's that remit? That's the problem I have with it. It's just unclear. And so we've changed the name, but have we changed the role? If we changed the role, great. If we haven't, why are we changing the name?
We did it with JD, the experience officer.
Different.
And starting to do that.
That's
But
CMO
he's-
plus.
But he's taking more mandate.
Yes.
And he's experimenting with the language.
Okay.
And selling that language. But you got to play with it a little bit before you just boldly say, I'm this other thing that nobody's going to find.
I don't want to speak for JD, but you don't talk about marketing with your boss. You talk about the business. You think about yourself as a business leader. It wouldn't matter what the title is. But the fact is you just added, 55 people to your team because they're going to do chief experience officer and marketing together. The notion that we talk about in CMO huddles is the notion of CMO plus. Get a plus. Get something that you're responsible besides marketing, because that will show people that you actually are more than just a marketer. Oh, good. Good.
So my concern about that is that if you say CMO plus, it makes it look like CMO wasn't good enough.
Interesting.
And
Not a title, just a concept. I'm just trying to give you more expansive in the role.
but I think chief market officer is also a concept.
Okay.
I don't think we have to change the title, but I do think it's important that we recognize that in every company, in order for a company to be alive, much less successful, it needs a product, it needs a channel by which to sell that product, and it needs a market. We have a chief product officer, we have a chief revenue officer. Why don't we have a chief market officer?
Can you explain to me the difference between a revenue officer and a market officer in this model?
In this model, when I say revenue, it's every way to a dollar. There is a difference between a revenue officer and a sales officer. A sales officer, in my mind, is net new sales. A revenue officer owns every way to make a dollar. And that might mean that customer success, if they've got repeatability and retention, if that sits under the revenue officer, I'm okay with that. But that means it's net new sales, it means it's business development and partnerships, and it means it might mean customer success and account management, right? Market is all things outside this company. Everything out there, outside of our four walls, is the market. And that is partners, that is potential customers, that is customers, that is the enemy. And if the chief market officer is not more aware of everything going on out there and bringing those insights in here to feed us on what we're developing in terms of product, who we're selling to, and why and how, that's not a chief market officer.
So I went 2 comments. One is the CRO role working? I keep reading that it's not. It's a failed experiment. And that's one.
I have clients that make multiple millions of dollars that would argue that.
Okay.
And I do too.
Okay. They know better.
Several million a year as chief revenue officer,
Okay.
200 people under him, just crushing it.
And I
Absolutely
like it.
crushing
I like the idea of a chief revenue officer. I don't like the idea of a CMO under the chief revenue officer because market is not revenue.
I'll
Okay.
say a
No argument for me there. No,
CMO that reports to a CRO is in title only.
Yeah,
They're
that's a
director.
demand gen person.
They might be a director of marketing.
Right, and,
Yeah.
and there's always an exception. So I am all for, I'm here to listen. I'm not just gonna put the hammer down and say it's never gonna happen. Don't ever work for a chief revenue officer. I'm never going to say that. There's always gonna be a reason why it might make sense. Listen, just, it might make sense. But for the most part, we have to be careful because I don't have to explain it to this room. When we put it under revenue, we cheapen it and we make it short term instead of what it really needs to be.
I can also share that I've noticed that CROs will want to own marketing at earlier stage companies until roughly 100 to 150 million when the budgets start to get out of control and they can't manage the P&Ls anymore. That's when they look for a marketing partner, like a real, more senior one. So oftentimes they'll have a CMO under them in title only. It's usually an inflated title, and that marketer tends to be kept down or weaker in that they cannot navigate the business acumen and push themselves out and create that role for themselves and demand the attention that they deserve to break that out. So they kind of end up being almost browbeaten and like, okay, yes, I'll make leads for you. I'll be the demand gen monkey. I'll do these things, right? And it crushes your spirit. And then you have the courage to say, I'm a CMO. It's bullshit. And you know it. You're a glorified demand gen marketer. Now you have to sell a vision of what a CMO is and go sell that vision out to the market and break out from under the CRO.
And I would argue, and then we'll shut up, sorry.
Oh, you're doing great.
In the end, if a CMO is reporting to a CRO, then that is not a CRO.
Oh, interesting.
That is
Why?
a chief go-to-market officer.
Oh, okay.
The person who owns all of go-to-market, that is the person that I am potentially okay for the CMO to report to, other than the CEO.
So we did a lunch huddle in London, and we had a CEO and a couple of CEOs and a CMO. And one of the CEOs, who I love forever and went up and hugged immediately, said, marketing is too important to report to sales.
Yeah.
And I love that. And it went on to talk about the role as strategic driver. Before I ask a question, I want to make one other notion. I say this a lot in huddles, but you all haven't heard it, so I'll say one more time. So every sentence that begins with, that a CMO says, that says, I was talking to a customer the other day. The board, everybody will turn your attention to you. So owning the customer is something that marketers are supposed to have done forever, but it seems like that's stopped happening a little bit. What's going on? Because look, if CMOs own the customer, no one would be arguing about whether it's market or marketing. They would because they have all the information, and as Mohan said, they have all the data, and they own the customer, and they've got the information, so they have the keys to the kingdom. So what's the problem?
I don't know how to answer that directly.
It wasn't a real
because
question.
I'm not a CMO. And also your notes. Has anyone seen his notepad?
Yeah.
How do you read that?
It's a secret language.
I only have this behavioral psychology behind this because now you've got me questioning.
Good.
I start a lot of my conversations with, hey, I was talking to a client the other day, right? And with my clients, they want to know the success that my other clients are having. So I start storytelling, and that's the lesson here. You're storytelling about the driver that the investors care the most about, that the CEO cares the most about. But I would also argue that it doesn't always need to be client-related or customer-related. It could be that when you're talking to the product officer, you might say, hey, I was talking to someone on the design team the other day, or I was talking to someone in engineering, and they found this problem with clients. It's about meeting them where the drivers are, more so than maybe that language is important. I do agree with owning the customer as much as possible. But I think it's the driver specifically.
I think
you care most about this. Therefore, let's tell a story about this.
Well, it's just funny, and it's a conflict that's in the room, because we've talked about metrics and so forth. There's this notion of anecdata, and anecdata is the stuff that persuades people. It's like, oh, I was talking to a customer today, and this is what they saw our ad, they saw the build, they listened to the podcast, and next thing you know, they said, oh, that's a great investment. Thank you for doing that. Not, oh my gosh, that the pipeline is growing. It's the anecdotal stories that do it. Okay, that wasn't a question.
Quick
let me
argument.
please debate.
This is why rhetoric is so important, right? I know we're not supposed to talk about politics.
We're not.
Rhetoric is what wins deals, right? And it's what keeps you in the chair longer. If you can master your rhetoric around the C-suite and with the board, you're going to keep your job longer. So it's not just managing down to being the most kick-ass marketer. It's about managing people, their emotions. It's the behavioral psychology. It's about giving people a great reputation so they believe that everything you feed them is their idea. Now I'm starting to be very manipulative.
Oh, God.
What was that manipulative
Yeah,
comment earlier
totally.
today?
I'll give you some books and then I'll point the
Okay.
finger at other people.
All right.
I just, on the notion of ownership and the customer,
Yes.
I really don't like putting the word own and customer in the same sentence. Those two things next to each
Interesting.
other.
Okay.
And I don't know that a chief marketing officer feels like they own the customer. I don't know that anybody should. I would just simply say that, again, when we go back to the idea of what I believe is a chief market officer, customer is inside the definition of the market itself.
Okay.
What if it's
So it's
advocate?
natural.
Everyone becomes an advocate of the customer. The
Absolutely.
more you advocate for the customer, the stronger your position will be.
I mean, the things I'm thinking about are customer advisory boards. When marketing runs it, they're closer to the customer. When they're running, if they do executive sponsorship program and they're the ones who suggest it, and they have a customer. I'm just saying stay close to customers, that's all, and drive those programs. And if you have customer success and you don't get to touch the customer, then you're going to be distanced from them. So that's where I'm going with this.
I feel like we're at the point where words matter, right?
Yes.
But that's what we're arguing semantics here. Words matter heavily, and that's where a lot of our rhetoric comes from. When you get the right word choice, then you can start to own the conversation.
I want you to do all my talking for me, please, because you're just like, I don't know, it comes out better out of your mouth. But I want to do a lightning round. You ready? Okay. Will CMO compensation increase or decrease next year?
Decrease.
Hello.
The answer is the compensation always increases when obviously competition increases.
Okay.
And that means that the more job openings there are, the higher compensation is going to get.
So-
and I think there's going to be more jobs.
I have a reason behind that. I know it's lightning round,
Yes.
but I think more people are beaten up and they lose their confidence and they accept less. The best CMO's compensation is going to skyrocket. The average compensation, I'm probably looking at 80% in this room, is going to go down.
Oh, God, ouch. Okay, so it's going to increase because, lightning round, more CMO jobs next year?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, okay, good. More CMO jobs yet. Will more CMOs report to CROs or other non-CEO execs next year?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I hate that.
Everything comes back to dollars and cents when the economy's hard, so they put everything into sales because it's the easiest path to revenue that they can perception.
All right.
But I think actually that the CMO is going to report to the CRO more next year because the market's going to get better. I think that I've been saying this to a couple of people today, we've kind of been in a wartime for the last year and a half, and great CMOs are forged in tough markets. It's easier to be a CMO in a great market.
Right.
And so I would say that when we see the market go up and things get a little easier, CMOs are going to be relegated again to demand gen because that's all that really matters. Hurry up and get those new customers. And that's why they're going to go under the CRO.
I also agree with that. And the challenge, though, is that the perception is usually 2 years behind. So even though the economy will be doing better, a lot of people will still be in that scarcity mindset, and you're going to have to drag them with it and show them the evidence that it's getting better, and then make the argument for why you, again, need to break out from that CRO role if you can't have that as a tenable relationship.
Okay, so we're running out of time, but I really have a couple more questions. So we're just going to do it. No. So, all right, these are amazing CMOs. We know that. They're flocking awesome. They are going to get jobs next year that pay more, that don't report to the CMO, the CRO. So counter to the trends. What are they going to do to get that? How's that going to happen? How are they going to get the jobs reporting to CEOs and making more money? And yes.
They're going to follow my newsletter.
Nothing self-serving there. Can you give us a real answer, please?
No, well,
It's actually pretty real.
All right.
no,
fine.
but what I mean by that is they need to be very influential, right? They need to influence their asses off. They need to master their conversational points, their rhetoric. They need to study more psychology and less marketing.
I think that's. I think it's possible, but I think I don't know that anybody can influence their way to working with a company that gets it. I think ultimately that can happen, but I don't think you should take a job and cross your fingers on it. And so I would argue that you want to seek out a company that really understands what the value is, and at least go in with your eyes wide open on what the company's drivers are and top priorities are for the next 18 to 24 months. Recognize what your priorities are likely to be because of those business priorities, and know that those are the kind of things you want to be doing for the next 24 months.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, they're awesome. Thank you.